So my name's Luke Willam, or I guess Luke. I go to UC Berkeley. I'm sophomore here, and I'm currently studying like mechanical engineering. I'm on the track team here as a pole vaulter, in the Pac-12, and I've been really interested in startups, and recently like got an interview from YC, and I've been kind of on that track recently.
Awesome, yeah. I'm Aryan Tyagi. I'm currently a sophomore at Ohio State University. I'm studying CSC. I'm playing sports. I live for fun, and I've been super interested in startups since like junior year of high school, I think. And I've just been trying to figure out like, how to start one, how to like just trying to get into it. And yeah, I discovered YC through TikTok actually, and I've just been yeah, I've just been super into it since.
That's awesome, yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like what made you want to like start in the startup world?
Yeah, honestly, like before, cause like I'm Indian, right? And so in
Mhm.
like in our culture, like the traditional thing is to like become a doctor and do
Yeah,
that stuff. And I just, like it's not that I didn't want to be a doctor. I had any problem with that. Like I was fine with it, but it's just like I didn't want to. It just seemed so boring, and like I never
yeah,
really
that's
thought
fair.
about how long my life would be. Like I'm gonna live for a while, and like it's just so boring. I didn't want to really do that. I felt like I didn't want to work past 30. Like I want to retire at like 29, 30. Like I just figured I'd rather just work super hard for the prime years of my life and then do whatever I want instead of like kind of pacing away like my entire life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What about you?
Yeah, I guess I've just always been pretty interested. I've been looking at it for a while now. Biggest thing is just like kind of working for myself has always been like a big driver. But also like it does seem exciting. It seems like yeah, you're like kind of on the edge of new technology, kind of making it for yourself. You're constantly learning, so it just seems like more exciting lifestyle than like a normal uh or a classic route you go by. Over at like Ohio, what's the culture like there? Like, how do people like view startup culture and like is there a large like base around it?
Honestly, not really. Like at OSU, like most people just talk about football, honestly. Like no one really talks about startups. Like it's not a thing. Like if I like go and talk to someone about startups, like the odds are like they just want to talk about the game or something.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm trying to fix the lighting. This lighting is kind of bad. Like it's pretty. I mean, sorry. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay. My hoodie doesn't help, but let's see. It's kind of harsh for me. I'm trying to.
Tarps
Sorry.
out.
All right. Yeah, that's a little better, I guess. Yeah, so pretty much in Ohio, like, yeah, football, everyone just talks about football. People don't really care about startups, but I'm in like a startup club though. But startups like aren't really a huge thing in Ohio. What about you?
Yeah, I mean here at Berkeley it's like everywhere. Like, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
one of the coolest things. One of the reasons I came here, honestly, is just like everybody's super interested in it. Everybody's kind of like talking about the new things they're doing. And it's not like super common with like the general like every kid you meet is gonna have a startup going, but it's like it's fairly common and people are like really open to it, which is really cool. Like I feel like in my hometown, uh I would be like bring up an idea or bring up something that just be like, oh, like that probably won't work. Or, oh, that kind of like not shame it, but like there's no interest. Everybody here like thinks it's cool, thinks it's like oh like sweet like doing that, and they want you to tell them about it. They're all interested, so that has been like one of the coolest things coming here, honestly.
For real, yeah, like it's nice to like be in an environment where like it's encouraged, or it would be nice to be in an environment where it's like encouraged and stuff. Like in my hometown too, like it's like a small town, it's very closed-minded. People like they wouldn't entertain like outside ideas or anything like that. Like they're very fixed in their ways, but it would be nice to like be in a place where, people would like, you know what I mean? Like you can like
Yeah,
bounce
yeah, yeah,
ideas off other people. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's definitely cool, and there's so many people I can just like go and ask, be like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Or like, does this seem like a doable idea? Or even ask for help. Like one of the coolest things too is like I was trying to build out an app for like my thing, right? I just like straight up like asked one like a friend for help. I was like, hey, like I don't know how to do this. Like, do you have any? And he like worked on it for like hours. Like,
Yeah.
Like it was like crazy. It's just people are just like willing to like kind of work on these side projects and kind of help you out.
Yeah. Damn.
I see it like a fair amount in YC too. It's not as common, but like yeah, everybody's like kind of there to learn, kind of there to like reach people, and that's what I really liked about being on like the YC page. But like the downside too is everybody's like I say more selfish there is like one way to say it, but they just kind of like want to keep to themselves.
Yeah, it's not like it's not of like collaboration isn't like as strongly encouraged, I guess would be like a good way to put it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Wait, how like do you plan on applying to YC like again, like when you try like to start your startup after you graduate college?
Yeah, for sure. Like I guess the end goal, of course, has always been to like, hey, like this is kind of my dream, it's kind of the thing I wanted to do, you know. And I have like a lot of things going for me, I guess, right? Like see how sports pans out, see how like all these things. But like it's in the back of my mind for sure. And it's like it doesn't have to be YC, because YC is kind of like, you know, like it's there, right? It's one way, right? But like definitely looking at those opportunities, and keep like exploring ideas, right? And
Yeah.
like I'm like I don't know for sure if I'm gonna do it like right after college or whatever, but like I definitely wanna at some point like, work pretty like hard towards like a business or a startup culture. And definitely like in the tech world for sure.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, for sure.
What's your big thing? You trying to get into startups once you graduate?
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel that, but yeah, no, yeah, like for me, I mean, if I have enough money and I have like a co-founder, like if I had 10 grand, which I probably will by the time I graduate, and I have a co-founder or someone that like I'm really like close friends with, by that time, like if everything's, then I would probably just go ahead and just start a startup. Even if I didn't get into like YC, like I would still go for
Hmm.
it. But yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm pretty dead set on the startup stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so one of my questions was like, what? Because what was your major again?
Mechanical engineering.
Yeah, so I mean, but you know how to code and stuff. So, like, what made you want to start a startup over like the traditional route of like FAANG?
Oh, well, I've like never thought about FAANG. I've never even like really been that too enticed to be in a traditional programming role, honestly. I've always thought of it as kind of like I wouldn't say boring. Like I've definitely thought about majoring in computer science, but it's never been like a like I went mechanical engineering because I thought it was more like exciting and engaging, right? So like it's like I've literally never thought about like joining thing, and like I learned coding pretty much for the startup. Like that was kind of the reason for it. And I was like, hey, I want to build something new, and this is like a cool idea. So I said, okay, here's what I need to learn, and that was like never that was never the route. I never learned coding to like for these like other things. I just always learned it because it's like, oh, that's like the next step I need to do. And it was like kind of like
Yeah,
yeah, the next step. So that's always like uh, why I went into it.
yeah. Damn, man. Makes sense.
Yeah. So you yeah, you're definitely like a computer science major. So like how is that um like have you been applying to internships? Is that like a big part of it?
Yeah, I actually should apply to more. I've applied to like a few, but yeah, I gotta like apply to some more, like for the summer. But yeah, internships are a big part of for like computer science. You gotta have internships and stuff. It's
Hmm.
very big. Like for FAANG internships are like they're like oh like top of the line or something. But like it's kind of ironic because people just act like these like companies are so like prestigious and they're so good, but it's just like there's no such thing. They're just powerful.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Like Facebook is so prestigious. It's such a it's like the golden standard. Like no, it's it's one of the most powerful companies. That's why it's prestigious. Like what? Like
Yeah, yeah.
there's no real such thing as prestige in tech because in tech you can just build your own company. It's not like colleges. You can't just go and build your own college, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
that's
go.
fair.
But people, because I feel like people are like kind of still thinking the same way. They think of like, oh, I'm gonna go to a nice college. I'm gonna go to a nice company. Like money is just money. Like it doesn't like the company you work at. Like it's not like what like you can just build your own company or something. Like it's not that easy. Like build a Facebook, but like
Well,
prestige isn't a real thing.
I think the flip side though is like what you'd be learning and like the hands-on experience. Like do you think like those companies would have like I guess more in-depth jobs or like places that are exploring like different ideas like AI and, like, or do you think like you get that pretty much out of anything, or do you think they'd keep you all in like a certain role of like doing like front end or back end and just kind of stick you down a certain path?
I mean, I feel like you're just gonna learn more at a startup, like at Facebook or something. I mean,
Mhm.
they're like you're not gonna learn as much. It's like the main thing for internships too is like they hire juniors and seniors because like they're just trying to get you in the pipeline to get hired. Like they're not trying to like teach you like anything crazy. But at a startup, like you're gonna learn a lot. Like
Yeah,
you have to build everything. Like you're gonna learn a lot. Like they're not trying like they need help.
yeah, yeah,
What
for
about you
sure,
though?
for
What
sure.
do you think of that?
But I think like work experience can be helpful. So like I've always had the opinion that like all right, I previously like thought like oh like of course I'd want to just do a start. Like it makes sense. Like I'll just learn on the job, I'll figure it all out. You're gonna learn way more. But like now I'm kind of like thinking towards this thing where it's like a lot of these like normal processes, like especially in like the industry and stuff, you're not gonna learn unless you like take part in it, if that makes sense. So like I think for a lot of cases it does kind of make sense to at least like um either one like work these jobs, find out like what's going on there, or like kind of like model it afterwards. Also, I do find that like a lot of these like high tech jobs and stuff or high tech startups are starting from like people who work these jobs and found problems within them and stuff. Because like, yeah, you're working the leading end of tech, right? So then if you find a problem in the leading end of tech, it's easier to create like a startup out of that than just like thinking about everyday problems, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I actually read that like in one of Paul Graham's like I read like a bunch of his blogs. I read all of them, I
Mhm.
think, but I actually read them. I read that. That was actually when I was first like learning about startups. Like I was like what is a startup? Like how do you like? I read about that, and then like he said like working in a startup helps, and then he also said like the best way to learn how to start a startup is to just start a startup, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, of course.
But yeah, I just remember like reading about that so long ago though. But yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and like the two people who like started my like built this out with me were both like had taken internships at Amazon and like these big companies and saw their frameworks and saw their like how they ran things and like modeled it after that and it made it way more efficient. Like one thing is like we immediately used Jira software and stuff and we immediately like went down this route of like corporate work, right? Which made it like a lot more efficient in the sense of like let's build out this app, right? It's like despite it still being a startup, you starting from like ground zero, knowing like nothing, right? We still had this like framework we could go by, and it kept us like accountable. It kept us like working on things, and it gave us like direction. So I think that
Yeah.
was like super valuable when I was like had this experience.
What's Jira?
It's like a task manager for like
Uh,
a lot of companies use it. It's just like a way of it's especially made for programmers, but it's pretty much just
is
a
it
task manager.
is it free?
Yeah, yeah, 100% free.
Oh, sick. All right.
Yeah.
Then I can afford it too.
You can't really pay for anything in the startup world. But
Yeah.
like definitely and like another reason too with software too. Like I think those like high-end tech things, jobs in software make a lot of sense just because you're like require um well tech is like free, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what do these big companies do differently to like stay ahead of the curve, right? And it's
Then
like, oh,
what?
like you find like what do they do differently like that keeps them ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah.
Most people say like, oh, they just like are more powerful, have more money, do all this, right? But they like spend a lot of effort on like making sure their process is like as clean as possible. And there's like a lot of stages where it's like oftentimes like one or two employees that are really good outperforms like 10 regular just because like if you're really invested in a project, having a bunch of people on it usually doesn't help. So it's like it's this really weird flow that's like I think definitely helps to learn.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Yeah, I think too like talking about like Jira though, like just like a real quick tangent, like that's probably like a freemium if I'm guessing, like where you can buy extra like features or something like that. Like it's kind of just ironic. It's like because it's like built for like that. It's like starting out in the game, you can like have it for free, but once your startup like gets big, you can like get like the leveled up version or something.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for
Like it's
sure.
kind of like a video game low key.
Yeah, no, I like those like a lot of companies are doing that now. Like Firebase is a big one, right? And
What's
it's like
that?
it's like a lean AWS. It's like and they just initially free. So like it's just stores all your data or whatever, right? But it like it starts off completely free. It has a bunch of cool features that you can use, right? But the biggest thing is it's like, okay, we'll start charging you once like you have a ton of users, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it like scales with, and it's kind of
Yeah.
cool. It's like this whole business built up of like oh, we want you to succeed, and they're actually like super helpful to these like starting companies because they're like, hey, if you succeed, we succeed, right? I think
Yeah.
that relationship's really cool.
Damn, yeah. It's like they're more encouraged. Like there's like a positive correlation between it's not just like you're buying the product, but like it's it just keeps going up too. Like the bigger the company gets, the more you're gonna buy their like the more storage space you're gonna buy. So it's like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
direct positive correlation between like the company's success, like your company and their company's success, sort of.
yeah, yeah. No, it's really cool for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also you were mentioning like your first startup. Like how did that end up like how did you end up starting that up? So you just met them at Amazon and you ended up starting that?
Oh, okay. So I joined a club too at Berkeley, right? So I
Yeah.
kind of run into the story. It was a club for like entrepreneurs at Berkeley. It was a club for like new members or new like students to come and like find or work on a project like collectively, and then you're supposed to like pitch it at the end, and like the winner got like this thing with Skydeck or whatever that like I don't know. I don't think it even planned out happening, but pretty much my story is that like I came to this thing uh and the first part is you try and find like co-founders, right? You try and find a group of work, and right, and that was like my whole goal, right? I'm like, all right, we're gonna find like these guys that I like really click with, really are really passionate about like making the startup happen, right? So I found like it was teams of six, I think. We had a group of it. We had our members of six, right? The two co-founders and then like three other people. We like the three of us just immediately like started working super hard, right? Like just went in there, brainstormed ideas. Like I remember I met with the guy and we just like brainstormed ideas for like 4 hours. We're like,
Damn.
okay. And I had a list of 130 ideas that I've been making for like 3 weeks to just like prepare, right? And
Yeah.
we just brainstormed. Then we just sat down and we're like, okay, let's figure out like what's the best idea we can make, right? We landed on like this like clock in payroll manager for businesses, right? And that was our initial plan, right? And we're like, okay. And we just started going out there and like talking to a ton of businesses. And at this point, this is like we were trying to work with these like six people, right? And three of them just like one of them just stopped showing up. And two of the others just like slowly like didn't really do anything, right? And they were like part of our team at the club, right? So then we just pretty much just stopped going to the club. We're like, okay, we're just gonna separate and it's just gonna be us three. And then we just worked their asses off and just like talked to a ton of companies, right? And then like or small businesses, because the whole idea was like with mom and pop shops, these small companies. And went and talked to all of them and they're like, oh, like ask them about this. We're like, honestly, like our payroll's fine, but like we're short staffed. And that's like what we got from everybody, right?
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
So then we're like, oh, okay. And then we just immediately pivoted to like a hiring thing. Like, okay, this is a perfect environment to make a hiring app, right? Then from there, we had already like started programming the framework, right? It was super
Yeah.
easy to transition it. Like it didn't really like it was already at a point where it was like you can make either app, right? So we
Yeah.
just immediately transitioned it. Worked all on that. I think I spent 2 weeks, put about 60 hours into learning React Native.
Damn.
Um, that then I started like working on that. From there, we built out the app. While I was like going out to a bunch of businesses and just talking to them about like if they needed workers, I was getting emails, getting contact information from a bunch of businesses, and then we were looking for ways to like reach out to people who need it. We like came up with like high schoolers, right? Around Christmas time, we were like finally got our first like stage of the app out, right? Walked to a ton of businesses and asked them like, hey, can we like integrate you to your app? I think we got 5 businesses, and the rest of them were just like, there's no users. Why would we join this, right? So this is where like our first like headache came in, right? So then we're like, ah, screw it. We went and talked to a bunch of Berkeley high school students, right? Just give them flyers, give them to try and like integrate them on our app. We're like, hey, you looking for a summer job? You looking for any type of job? Right here, we got you. Just passed out a ton of flyers at Berkeley High School. Ended up getting like a fair amount of users, honestly, like fair amount of signups. And there was like no jobs, right? So we're like, awesome, fuck, like we need to do something. So we just got a ton of jobs off of Indeed, off of Facebook, off of Craigslist, and we just posted them ourselves in our app. And then everybody who applied to them, we just like thing. And the whole map UI was that you could see a map of, or the whole, yeah, the whole app, you could see a map of the surrounding like jobs, and you could click on them. You could, and that was like the whole app. It worked great, and like we had pretty good user retention. And then that's like when we went to YC and we applied to a bunch of accelerators. We heard back from YC with an interview. We took the interview, and then we like talked to them. We got our feedback. We got to meet Paul Graham. We got to meet like all the big guns. They were like training a new guy. It was awesome. But what we they came back with was pretty much that one, they didn't see too much like not enough like retention and like users to just go for it, right? Like it wasn't blown up super fast or anything, right? Which was like expected, right? And that we were just like they didn't like that I was still in school, and they thought that the two other people were at a point where they might choose a job over this like startup. So they're really kind of worried about that. That's why we didn't end up getting it. But it was definitely like cool. And then they ended up going to work at Netflix and uh DocuSign maybe. I don't know. It's pretty cool. And so that's kind of like how it ended. But no, it was a crazy experience. And like we got to be like preferred by YC. It was kind of cool. So they like if they see us apply again, they like we get to, or they like review it first, or it's like preferred, which was I thought it was pretty sweet, where we just kind of get like front row uh seats into the next like YC uh interview. So yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Dude, I actually had I swear to God, the exact same idea like last summer because I was working a minimum wage job and they had to shut down it's not like where they had a mild problem. They literally had to I came into work and half the lights were off and I was like looking around and my boss looked pissed and I like asked someone, I was like, what's going on? Like, why is no one here? And they're like, we didn't have enough workers. We had to shut down for today in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, like they were desperate. Like they would have done it. Like that was crazy. Like Chipotle had hiked up its price minimum wage, I think at one point, and like every restaurant was like freaking out. I think the pandemic was definitely like the best time to start a company like that. But yeah, like I had the exact same idea. I was like, because LinkedIn like wouldn't work for like local shops. It's like that wouldn't like you wouldn't find a job on LinkedIn for like for something like that. Like sorry, what? I had to I had to walk in pretty much every restaurant and just hand them like a paper copy of like an application or something. There was no like app for me to do that. Like Handshake didn't really work for that. So I was like thinking like there should be an app for like local shops like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It was cool. And we like figured it out. It was like there was a basically like the market now was like in the favor of workers, because like there wasn't enough workers to go around, right? And
Mhm.
it's like the traditional hiring is that the businesses have like there's not enough jobs for the people, right? So people are trying to get these jobs, right?
Yeah.
But it like flipped during COVID, right? So we thought like we kind of like expanded out. There was like a good solid like barely like a year and a half from when we started, right? It's like, hey, this like really like it'll probably stay like this for this time. And it's like the time we could potentially launch something, right?
Hmm.
But like yeah. And like looking back at like honestly it was pretty good timing, right? It's just like um definitely hard to like start during school. And then it's just uh it's like there was a lot of other people trying to do the same thing. And I think one of the things we messed up on is we try to start like a whole like industry, right? We're like, hey, like every entry level job. And it's like maybe we should have started out with just these certain jobs, right? Like, oh, like have a niche is what they call it. So it's just like a certain type of workers. So maybe just like only small restaurants or only right. And that might have been it, but like helps out a little bit.
Yeah. But like the average high schooler, like that might be right, but the average high schooler who's looking for like a job, summer job, they don't necessarily care if it's at a restaurant or lifeguarding or anything like that though. Like it's
Mhm.
all the same to them if you think about it. So like I don't really know it because like, when I was looking for a job, I would have took any normal like minimum wage job. I don't care if it was restaurant, or lifeguarding, or whatever. I did lifeguard too for a bit. So yeah, I don't know. But it's interesting to
Yeah,
find
it's
out.
definitely an interesting question. And like the new company that's like for startups, have you seen that? It's like hiring only for startups. And that's been blown up recently around the Bay Area. And
Oh,
that's like,
AngelList,
no, that's completely different. No,
the
it's
new
like where you
company
can get
hiring.
hired to work for a startup.
What
Um,
comp? What website is that?
I can find it real quick.
Yeah, that's AngelList, I thought.
Hirect.
What's up?
Hirect.
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 I'm actually gonna like type this in my phone, so I'm gonna use this later. Wait, Hirect. You said HIRECT.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna look at that later for sure.
All right.
Bet. Wait, so how is it different from AngelList though? Could you explain it?
AngelList is just,
Or not AngelList, sorry. Wait, am I thinking of AngelList? Yeah, AngelList, like with a startup, yeah.
yeah, so AngelList is mostly for angel investors to invest
It's
in
mostly for
startups.
what?
Angel investors to invest in startups. Like has a small part of it that's for like the same thing as Hirect. The majority of it is just to find angel investors.
Really?
Hmm.
Damn, I didn't even know that. I only use it to like find internships. Damn.
And then I believe uh, they don't actually have a like it's entirely for um was it? I think it's for just a startup, if that makes AngelList. So it's like startup goes to work or goes to try and find work, and then AngelList will try and help them. Whereas like Hirect's just a platform for startups to post job postings.
Hmm, makes sense. Sort of. I got that. Well, you mentioned like in the interview, like you were talking to Paul Graham, and bro, you guys told me what that was like. Like I'm such a big fan. Like what was that like talking to Paul
No,
Graham?
it was awesome. He's just like a
That was
nice.
some insane.
He's a nice guy. He's just trying to like get to know us. He was training a new member too, so he's trying to like help him out along the way too.
He's
Kind of
trying to
like
what?
help out a new member. He was training like a
Okay.
new guy to like work on interviews and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It was awesome. He just kind of asked us about our business. Was super nice guy, like super nice guy. Um, like yeah, he's kind of like just like glad to be there, very
He's
down to
what?
earth, glad to be there. Like he just really seemed to like his job and was very like passionate about
Yeah.
what he was doing.
Man, he's a legend, man. I can't believe you met him. Dude, what if he ends up watching this sometime in the like? What if we end up going to Y Combinator, becoming like super successful, and he ends up watching this, and he's like,
That,
"Oh, like that'd be crazy."
that would be crazy. That would be crazy. I'm here for it though.
Dude, he's a legend. He is literally a legend. Like, man, I gotta meet him at some point, man. That's insane. I'm so jealous. That's insane. I've read every single blog of his. Like, some of them I've read like 10 times. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, and like yeah, no, like he just really kind of stressed like how cool it was that like we were so young and doing it too. That was
Yeah,
like his big thing. It's like, oh, this is awesome. Like you guys just keep at it, you'll get somewhere. And
yeah,
um like everybody else there was like kind of like, oh, this is my job. Like I need to like try and work for YC, blah blah blah, try and make it money, right? But Paul Graham was just kind of like very interested in us, and just
yeah.
kind of like trying to give us some advice too, trying to like help us out and like be like, oh, like here's what you should be doing for your life. Like I thought that was really cool. Like he just kind of was just focused on us and how we were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. What the other people interviewing you, they weren't YC partners? Because I thought like only YC partners like interview people.
Oh no, there's just like three YC work people who work for YC
Oh, damn.
interviewing us. Yeah.
Nice. Well, so you mentioned you go to like UC Berkeley. I was just wondering like, like why did you choose UC Berkeley and like what was your dream school when you were applying to colleges?
Oh, okay. My dream school was like MIT, probably.
Really?
Didn't get in, right? Of course.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's kind of like I ended up my two big ones that I was deciding between the Air Force Academy and UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
Um, my dad went to West Point, so I was always a big driver for the Air Force Academy. I always kind of like that environment. That was cool. Staying active too, kind of put in that environment. But like the one thing that I guess I really liked about YC was probably entrepreneurship and engineering, were, like super good. And then it was just like more freedom. Like the UC Berkeley campus, you can do a lot here. It's kind of like free to explore like whatever you want. So I thought that was like the big drivers. Definitely, I think
Yeah.
I made the right choice though. I'm happy with my
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can do more. Yeah. Yeah.
How
Shit.
like
Yeah. What's
how did
up?
you decide to go to your school? Did you just from there, right? So it's just like the cheapest option.
Pretty much. I didn't. That's like the only good school I went to. So I was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Screw it. I guess I'm gonna know OSU. Pretty much. Was it? You said like working out. What sport did you play again?
I pole vault. I
Oh,
pole vault here at UC Berkeley.
nice, nice. Are you like on the official team?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Yeah.
Do you guys have to like do like weight training or conditioning or what do you have to do for
Yeah.
that?
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandatory weight training.
What's up?
And you're a big lifter too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't lift big, but yeah, I try.
Oh, you can do, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like lifting a lot. Yeah, I don't like play any sports. I was never really like good at organized sports. Like I used to swim in high school. I was like super bad. Like I was like the worst, and I was like never good at it. Like, but I just like lifting because it's like I don't know. If you lift a
Simple.
lot,
Yeah.
what's up?
What made you do that transition to lifting? Like when did you start?
I mean, I started lifting like junior year of high school, but then I like had to stop because of like Corona and stuff. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, pretty much like swimming, like I was just so bad at swimming. Like the kids I was swimming with had been swimming since like elementary, middle school, and
Yeah.
it was like it was clear I was never gonna catch up because it was just so like. But lifting was like if you lift, like you can like look better, and I was like, what's more important, like swimming and being skinny, or looking good? And I was like, I'd rather just
Get
look
some
good.
gains.
Yeah, like, because kids, like, it was so dumb to me. Because it's like the kids on my high school swim team, like, they would always, like, stress about their swim time in a race or something like that. They were always, like, stressed. And it's not that they were, like, good to the point where they were, like, going to get any serious scholarship or do anything with it. Like, I was just looking around, everyone was just stressed. And since I was, like, the worst swimmer, I didn't have to, like, stress about anything. I was just having fun. But I was like, what is the point of this? Like, you have a fast swim time and you swim fast, but, like, it doesn't like do anything for you really like outside of the pool.
Well, I even
Like
noticed that here, where like a lot of kids are like super stressed about their like how they're doing stuff, right? It seems to almost hurt them a lot of the time. It's like
yeah,
definitely the stress factors definitely take away.
yeah, like it's there's just no point. Like why? Like it's just a sport personally.
Yeah,
Like
that's fair.
it is like if you're like a really good swimmer, like a state champion, and you're gonna get like scholarships or maybe you're trying to go to like the like Olympics, like you really should be stressed on. Like that's important. But if you're just like if you're not gonna do that, like why? Like what? Like it doesn't make any sense. What are you stressed about? Like what? But I just
That's
like
fair.
lifting better because it's like it like does stuff for you in real life. You actually look good. Like you can actually like you just feel stronger. Like you're just better.
Yeah, what is
But
your like goal with it?
with lifting,
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to like I was just skinny. Like first I used to like
So like
in middle
aesthetically,
school. What's up?
aesthetics.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's what. Yeah, aesthetic for sure. Like I love to be strong, but aesthetics are like the most important thing
Okay, that's
because
fair.
that's like that's what like to me because like that's like what people see. So,
Yeah. Did it stem from anywhere? Like,
what's up?
did it stem from anywhere? Like, was there a reason you just like?
I mean, it's just like I mean, I guess like being strong, like, because people see like no one really, if you really think about it, like your bench, I guess people ask you, but no one really cares how much you can
Yeah.
like leg extension or how much you can like bicep curl. Like no one really cares. Or like it's good to like it's important to like lift big. Like I'm not saying like it's not, but not like it doesn't like really matter that much at the end of the day. Like how much you can like I don't know, like calf press or whatever, but like people just see your calves and they're like, oh, he probably calf presses, or they just see your arms and like, oh, he probably does hella curls. They're not like, you know what I mean? Like it's all just in your own head. So like the most important thing is just to look good, I feel.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Because I've always had like a definitely a different approach though. Like
Really?
I always did it for like I guess just being like more athletic or be able to move my
Yeah.
body more. That was always a big factor for me. Is just being able to like be more athletic, be more agile, be more like healthy, I guess, in those weird ways. And reducing injury has always been like a huge focus
Oh,
for me when I
facts.
lift.
Yeah. Lifting does like do a lot
What,
for reducing injury.
what has your progress been like? Like, have you noticed it like a fair amount?
What's what?
Your progress, like since you started.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at my photos, I look pretty different, but yeah, no, my yeah, my progress, it's been pretty good. I was like I'm like still pretty skinny, but I was like really skinny before. And so it was like good to like lift and get a little bigger, put on some size, you know. Because like when you have size, like when you're skinny, like I don't know, it's like it's just like when you don't even realize it in the moment, but when you're skinny, like you're kind of just like I don't know, when you get stronger and bigger, you kind of just feel more comfortable, like just in yourself. I can't really describe it,
Did you get that
but it just
confidence?
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. Like, not that I'm like huge right now, but even like putting on some muscle, it just gives you like confidence, kind of. Like people just see, I can't even describe it, but yeah, like putting on muscle definitely gives you like more confidence.
No, that's awesome, dude. Do you
Yeah.
like take any supplements? I've always been like, I don't know, I'm always curious to ask. Like, do you take like protein? Do you take omega? Like,
Yeah, I take creatine. I don't know. I have omega. Is that like the fish oil or something?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I never really took fish oil or anything. I
You
might, but
take
I don't know.
pre-workout?
Yeah, I used to, but it was like so because mine has like 350 like milligrams of caffeine. So that's like I don't know if you've took it, but that's like a lot for like pre-workout.
Yeah,
That's like
that's a
insane.
ton.
That's like the maximum I think. That's the most I've ever seen on any pre-workout or any energy drink. Like I've never seen anything go higher. So like I would like it sounds so dumb right now, but in hindsight, like I was staying up to I like couldn't sleep. And it was like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I was like, why can't I sleep? Like I used to be such a good sleeper. And then one day it occurred to me it's because I was taking so much pre-workout. I was like, dude, like
I'll
I
do
gotta
it.
cut this out. But yeah. And I take creatine too and protein. But yeah. What about you? What supplements do you take?
I just started taking creatine. I think it helps, and like increases athleticism too.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just like water. I try to get most of my nutrients through eating.
Yeah.
Actually, like a big thing too is just you can't take a lot of pre-workouts if you're for NCAA. Like a lot of them actually show up on drug tests, which is crazy.
Oh, damn.
Like this very normal substance or whatever, just like not allowed. So that's like
Yeah.
kind of a big thing. I probably wouldn't take it. I've always had like a weird effect with caffeine, so I was like kind of steer clear from it. Won't be able to sleep either, you know. Well, like feel kind of crazy. Yeah, definitely like just start creatine, and it's I think it definitely like does improve like my speed and my how much I'm lifting. And I think the biggest thing is just like how long I can go, like, especially the pole vaulter. Like you have to like take a bunch of jumps every practice, right? And like
Yeah.
I think like taking creatine, I just get a couple extra, which is like nice for like working on my form, working on all those things.
It's fair, yeah.
Yeah. Do you find yourself like do you think like lifting like affects you like outside of lifting, like makes you more productive or makes you feel a little better
Oh
overall?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Like the other day, like I was getting like so stressed and I went to lift and I just wasn't stressed. Straight up. Like I was freaking out stressed. Like I had to like calm myself down and I was really stressed and I just felt just completely fine after lifting. I felt great. It was like
Yeah, that's
nothing
awesome.
changed. Yeah,
Yeah, I
nothing
definitely noticed
changed.
that
Yeah.
effect too. Like if I don't work
Yeah.
out for a day, I feel like it's noticeable impact.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you like before I started lifting, people like I always read in articles like, oh, like exercise increases endorphins. You should exercise. And I was like, yeah, but like probably not. Like it's just I don't know, like yeah, like sure, like, yeah, whatever. But like no, like it really like it's pretty crazy,
Yeah, yeah. No,
you know?
definitely has another full effect. Do you think it's like
Uh,
how do you balance it with school? Like is lifting like does it take up that much time? Do you think it's like a quick thing you do every night? Do you like have it scheduled?
Honestly, I don't really have a schedule. With school, like right now, I'm just taking a bunch of gen ed, so I have like a lot of time to lift. But before, like I actually was like, it was pretty hard because it was like my first year of like college, and it
Hmm.
was like a lot of engineering stuff. So I don't even know how I did it, but I just lifted. I guess I just lifted 2 hours a day. But yeah, I just had to like just do it, I guess. And I went with my friends, so like it helped to like have someone hold you accountable.
Yeah,
What
yeah, no,
about
I
you?
feel
Like,
that.
how do you balance like having a sport and lifting and like school?
Well, I guess like my sport's super scheduled, right? Which definitely helps. So it's like it's mandatory that I be there like
Yeah,
these times, right? So it's just almost like an extra class, but like mine. And it's like yeah, it's like harder, more difficult, right? But it's definitely not to the point where I don't have time. Like I still have like a lot of time at the end of the day, and like definitely have time to finish all my homework. Like it's like I think I find that like if I schedule out my time, right, and you just take out like oh these 3 hours for practice, right? It's like well these 3 hours just like are just fit into like my day, right? And it's like normally during these 3 hours, right, would be spent like kind of like a lot of like miscellaneous time, right? Like I'm doing like
yeah,
kind of random things. So it's like or like I'm walking home to like maybe cook lunch or something, right? I was like, oh, instead I'm just like grabbing a quick lunch and then heading to the track and then doing my practice. And it's just like having this like super scheduled layout, I think makes it just like kind of just like fit in and make it pretty easy to uh do all my classwork too.
that's fair. Yeah, having a schedule definitely helps.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
I think the biggest thing too is just like it has to be structured, right? Because like you have to work with other people and your coach has to be there and all this stuff, right? So it's like um they kind of do manage you too. So like I'm pretty well managed. It's like, oh, like what class are you taking? You know, I get to like pick them early, make sure it fits around my schedule, right? So it's like everything's like pretty well, like my schedule's definitely like very comfortable and very like works with me.
that's fair. Yeah, makes sense. Planning helps. Planning helps a lot. Like actually, like no, but like it helps more than I thought it would.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like right now, like I'm taking gen eds and all of them are online except for one. And so I just like some days I don't even have class, I just like do whatever. And it's like it's crazy because you don't even realize how much time you waste like just walking to class, sitting in like a useless class, just like because you don't need to be there, but it's mandatory or something. But it's just like you just save so much time. Like I literally barely have to do anything for my classes. I'm taking 18 credit hours. It's like it's crazy. Like if you just I literally spent like I think 20 hours or so like planning my schedule. It probably saved me like 50 hours a week off of that. So it's just crazy like how that initial investment can save you so much. Like that upfront time investment can say like you just keep making that time back every single week. It is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Uh,
Just definitely like super noticeable.
yeah, I know. It really
Nah,
it
you guys are
compounds.
still online. Like here, it finally got opened up to like all my classes are in person, and like a fair amount of them are like mandatory.
Yeah, we're still online. But actually, let me get my laptop charger real quick. Sorry. Um, Oh wait, we're not online. Sorry, we're in person. I'm taking my classes online, like a lot of them, because they're just like asynchronous. So I just like picked out the asynchronous ones, like mostly,
Okay, yeah,
so
that
I can
makes
like
sense.
yeah. But no, we're in person. We opened up like my freshman year. We were in person too. Were you
Yeah.
not?
The I thought it was crazy, just like the like freshman year, like all online, all it was definitely like harder.
It was
I
all
think to
online for
like
you?
stay motivated. Yeah, first semester freshman year
Damn.
last year.
Well, you're a sophomore too, right?
Yeah, yeah. So
Oh, okay.
last
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Damn, damn. That would have been. That would have sucked.
It definitely like had super like noticeable. Like it's like it was nice that I was in the dorms too. So like kind of keeps you motivated. A bunch of other kids are in the same classes. That like helps a ton, right?
Yeah.
It was like it was definitely hard to like oh like I have a class that's like on my computer and then it's like hard to stay motivated and to like check in and keep up with all of it too. and like you
Yeah.
get through it, but it's just like I don't know. It doesn't feel like you're not out about all the time. You're not like as present in all your classes. So I definitely like struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah. You know, like as immersed. Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, I remember like when it first like when the pandemic first happened, they were telling us it was gonna be for like 3 weeks and we were back
Yeah.
to school. And it was like 3 years. I was so hyped. And then like I was just like 3 weeks later, I was so bored.
Yeah, no, that was definitely crazy. And I think craziest thing was like, yeah, going to college during that time too. It's just like I don't know, for me it's just kind of like leap faith, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I hope it gets better. And I hope, you
Uh,
know,
yeah. It's
like
crazy
luckily
to
it's
think.
like calmed down a lot now.
Yeah. It's crazy like next year, it would have been like 4 years since it happened. Like it happened our junior year. And then
Yeah.
next year will be junior, so it would have been like 4 years
Yeah.
since like the initial lockdown. Like that's like insane.
We're going through it. Seeing
What's
all those
up?
like age TikToks go around, bro.
Oh, yeah,
These are brutal. Holy cow.
crazy. Man.
No, but I think it was like I don't know. Definitely like looking back, it didn't affect me too much. Like I'd still probably be in a similar spot.
Facts, me too. I think honestly, like I think it was probably like I don't know, I don't want to say it was a good thing, but I think it was beneficial like in a lot of ways. Like so much stuff changed. Like people realized like, oh my gosh, like you can actually do your work from home. And then the world just became more mobile. Like
Yeah, it did
how do you
lead
have
to a lot of
online?
innovation.
What's
That was
up?
really cool actually, like to see how that went.
Yeah. I, I always like I remember too like before the lockdown sophomore year I was telling all my friends like guys like I bet we could do like all this stuff we do in school like it's all useless and we spend so much like we waste so much time. I bet you we could condense all this time in like an hour a day or like less like and everyone's like no Ariane like what are you talking about, that's crazy, that doesn't make any sense, like it's pretty productive. I was like no guys like we're wasting so much time, like we like all these worksheets like we don't really need to know them, like we could condense like we could do like 30 minutes of work to an hour a day and learn the exact same amount of stuff from home. And then the lockdown happened and we were doing like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of work a day initially in Google Classroom because they didn't know how to like work it yet. So sometimes we barely had any work. And like we were learning the same exact amount of stuff with like 20 minutes of work a day. And I was
Yeah.
like I had like this gut feeling. I was like, you're just wasting so much time. So it definitely like helped put into perspective like what you actually need to do and how much time we were actually wasting.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely did for me too. It made me better about like scheduling my own time too. I think
Yeah.
a big thing too is like when you're at school, it's like it's kind of scheduled for you. Like, oh, I had like my sport after school. I went and played that, you know, and then I came home. I had some homework, right? It was kind of like everything's kind of like laid out for you, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like once it hit, you kind of had to like figure it out yourself, you know? Where it's like, oh, like I'm waking up and I don't like have a bunch of things I could do, right? It's like, oh, what do I do? And it's like I think I definitely like grew a lot there. I was like figuring out like, oh, like okay, I'm gonna plan out my day like this, and I'm a like start off doing some homework in the morning. So then I'm gonna go like work out and lift, and then I'm gonna do some more work in the evenings, and then watch my lectures, and then you know,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people benefited from it too.
For sure. Yeah. It's yeah, it's changed the world so much.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it
kind of
definitely
funny
has.
too how like Skype been around forever. Like no, literally no one cared and everyone just went to Zoom. Like no one wanted to touch Skype.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they just changed, right? The Microsoft meetings or something. It's pretty funny. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, a lot of companies went crazy during COVID times.
Yeah.
Zoom is like a big one too. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
probably
Like
the
Google
biggest.
tried to do like Google Meet, I guess, which is like not bad too, like Google Meet, but it's just like it's crazy like when one thing blows up, like everyone tries to like copy it in a sort of way. Like everyone tried to copy Zoom, like Google Meet and Microsoft, like or whatever. And then like TikTok blew up and everyone tried to copy that. Like Snapchat tried. Snapchat did a horrible job of copying TikTok. Like I think they did the worst. Like my Snapchat feed is so
Agreed.
boring. Like even if I try to like get on there, it's just so boring. So like that is it was so trash. But YouTube Shorts did a really good job of copying them. I honestly think YouTube Shorts in the position where they might actually beat TikTok.
Yeah, no, I thought YouTube and Instagram were gonna beat it for a while now. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's already close. Like the Instagram Reels to beating uh TikTok. It's just kind of funny, like how quick these like big companies like Meta and Google, right, can just like come in there and kind of just like immediately like regain monopoly.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
scary though if you
insane.
think about it. Like,
I know, yeah.
how do you think about that? How do you feel about the the like Twitter thing?
Where Elon's buying it?
Well, Elon buying it, but also like the banning and the and kind of like control of like information.
Yeah. I feel like, well, first to touch on Instagram, I don't really feel like Instagram is like that big of a deal to be honest, because at this point it's just like a mishmash of everything. Like Instagram copied Snapchat, and now they're copying TikTok, and like even if they do a good job, like they're not doing it. And then, I guess they're copying Be Real apparently. I don't have Instagram anymore, so I don't know. But my friend told me, like Be Real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like apparently they're copying that too. Like Instagram is just like it's just like copying like all sorts of like things. But it's like, what's the vibe? Like every time you go on an app, there's like a vibe. Like, what is the vibe of that? Like, that's like if you put SpongeBob and Spider-Man and then Pokemon in the same TV show. It's like you're just throwing like a bunch of stuff together. Like it just doesn't like have any chemistry. You know what I mean?
Sort of. Yeah. I think it's still trying to like centered around its initial feature too,
Yeah.
which is like good, honestly. I think it'd be weird if it wasn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like I still think it's centered around like connections anyways, right? All these extra
Yeah.
things are just like I don't know. Like the additional features, like we'll see how they pan out too.
Yeah. Also, it's like it's hard to know because I don't use Instagram, so it's like hard to like know like how an app is doing until you like really feel it, like until you really use it. Because like I wouldn't know Snapchat like Reels or whatever they're called suck so much until I use them. I'm like, wow, like this is horrible. But like YouTube, it's crazy. Like I was on like I had the YouTube app and I had to delete it because I was on YouTube Shorts for like 3 hours. Like it's like not a game. Like it's actually really good. I
Well,
was
I
really
think I
hooked
think
on
the
it.
crazy thing is they in their AI they use um they actually like connected to who you're watching previously, right? It's like they're able to onboard a ton of people because they're like, oh, people are already watching YouTube, right? It's like, oh, here are the shorts you'll like, you know?
That's true. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like other apps they have to like figure out what you like for a
Fact.
big trial period, whereas like YouTube Shorts don't.
They already know. But actually, like I was watching like a Mr. Beast one of the Mr. Beast podcasts. He was saying like actually on YouTube Shorts, they're not linking it super strongly to like the creators who you've watched because they want people to like give people a chance to like come up off of YouTube Shorts, so they don't want to saturate it too much.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably like that makes sense too.
Yeah, but like for my YouTube channel, like YouTube Shorts is like it's it's like you can build your like long form content, which is like your main thing. But YouTube Shorts is like it's almost like marketing for your videos. You can like they're super easy to make. They take like 2 seconds to make, and like
Yeah,
you can if one of your shorts blows up, like you can get so many, you can attract attention to your long form content, and then that can get you get more subs off that, you can get like more views off that. It's so clutch. Like you have long form content which complements short form content, which people will push out to bring people to their page. Versus TikTok, it's not like that. But YouTube has
yeah,
like it's almost like a killer. It's like a killer combo because you have long
yeah.
form, and people can look off that, and then people are encouraged to make shorts to bring people to that. It's like it's both like and it's just perfect. It's perfect chemistry.
And I did see that like a lot of like creators for short form content have to like transition to long form content to like start getting revenue, start like making money. And that's like,
Yeah,
yeah, YouTube's just like perfect for that.
it's perfect. Yeah. Right now I'm like doing both, and I mean it's awesome.
Yeah, how's that going? Like, have you seen like considerable growth? Do you have any trends, do you think, that like people tend to gravitate towards?
Yeah, I have seen. I mean, but like like YouTube goes like this, and then like goes kind of like that. So my growth is like it's kind of small right now, but I went from like I think 12 subs, now I have like 21, so that's like decent, I
Mhm.
guess. But yeah, like my recent video, like the creatine one, like people look at videos now and how many views they get, but my other videos, when like at this time they had like 70 views or 60, and my creatine one is like 170 views, and it hasn't even been a week. So it's definitely like almost like doubled in a half, like the
Yeah,
new
yeah,
numbers. So it's definitely like been starting to climb up. Like it's definitely climbing. And so like I have another video that I'm gonna release this Sunday, and it's just gonna like one video a week is like what I'm gonna do, and then it's just get like it's definitely been climbing up for sure. And like long form definitely or short form definitely helps because like you'll release like 10 like tick like shorts or whatever, and one of like most of them will get like 0 views, and one of them will like blow up,
yeah,
and it's like crazy. Like it's not even like necessarily it's better. Like all it's just I don't even know. It just blows up.
yeah. It just seems kind of random.
It's completely random. Like one of my shorts got like 1.6K views, and it was like it wasn't even that good. It was just it wasn't good. It was just like a normal. Like I uploaded the exact same short later to see if it would happen again. The exact same caption, the exact same like video, the same hashtags, and it got like no views. So I was like, it's the exact same thing. So sometimes it just gets views. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of random. That's kind of crazy.
But yeah, it's really cool like making like doing YouTube, doing long form and short form like at the same time. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, definitely looking at getting into it. Definitely looking towards there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Have you started like your YouTube channel yet, or do you think you're gonna start one anytime
Nah,
soon?
nah. I haven't. I don't know. I haven't figured out a basis yet too. Like, but yeah, I definitely like brainstorm a little bit. And then I worked with like a startup too, and making some content for them. That like performed super well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wait, was that long form or short form? I forget.
Short form.
Short form. How many click was that a TikTok?
It was like, yeah, I put it on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts for the two places.
Yeah.
And I just made it in like Adobe Premiere. I ended up getting like about 30K in both, like 40 in YouTube Shorts and then like 25 in Instagram Reels. And it like performed super well. It's like it had good retention too. And like people seem to really like it. So that was like, I don't know, cool thing for me. I definitely like been looking at all his editing and stuff too. I found it like super interesting, like the ways you can like how like the different edits can like change the whole outcome of a specific like video.
Yeah. How is that? Like what do you mean like the different? Because I was actually the thing you told me before on the phone, or like the video you sent. I actually watched the whole video, and I actually used that like the whole like I was editing for like probably like 7 8 hours today, like my video, and I actually used that the whole time. Like I was like overlapping the sound bites to make sure there's no like
Hmm.
awkward pauses. I actually did that, and that actually really did help. But what's like the other things like you've learned about video editing to increase retention? 'Cause I
Yeah,
actually
yeah. I
increase
think like
retention.
one of the first things too is just like be exciting, be loud, be obnoxious, be
Yeah.
like one thing I noticed too is just like a lot of like I see it. I was like, oh, Mr. Beast had a little clip on this too, but it was like a lot of like new creators tend to just be kind of like underconfident in front of the camera, especially when it's only them. That's why they said a lot of times like group videos work really well, especially for people first starting out. Because like it's really hard to just talk into a camera, and be super excited, super like energetic.
Yeah.
So it's just like yeah, getting used to that and stuff is like a big part for him. Um, and I think like and that's what I've been looking at, and I haven't like experimented with that too much, of course, right?
Yeah.
All the content I did was like kind of like already there. The content I just like was in charge of the editing. And then I think like visual appeal like matters a little bit, but just like uh creating stories. So like a big point too is just like the really like interesting tidbits, or the funny or the stuff needs to have like some sort of like regularity, but also just not like the only thing, which is definitely separate from short form content, right? Where it's like, oh, so like all these like Tommy in it is like a huge example of this, right? And he like takes every like minute and a half and he has something that's like funny in the video.
Wait, who's an
Then the
example
other
of it?
Tommy in it, he's like a Minecraft YouTuber.
Oh,
He's like hella obnoxious, some kid who gets hella views.
yeah.
But he's been like he blew up pretty big, and his big editing tactic was he would like tell these stories, right? And he'd specifically cut them so that something funny would happen like every like minute and change, right? And it was like he would specifically not be funny for a whole minute just to like have that regularity, which is like kind of weird.
yeah, having like a goalpost at every like inch of the video to like keep people staying there.
Yeah, and they showed that if it was just like constantly trying to be funny too, it wasn't as good. It was just like these intermittent, like always having this like thing while keeping like the overall story or the overall like premise of the video intact was kind of like the way to go.
Huh.
I think I see it in a lot of other content too. Like I was watching the Assignment too, and they're like big like game shows. They do game shows all the time, which are like
Hmm.
one thing too is like you're doing this game show and they do a bunch of like dumbass shit, right? That like it's
Yeah.
completely not related, right? Just to be
Yeah.
funny, right? But they do keep it in a way where like the game is still like the premise of the video, right? So
Yeah.
they still play the game for most of it, right? But then it's just like all this funny stuff's happening like around it, like periodically. I think that's kind of like the premise of that point.
Yeah. Damn, actually thinking of that, I might have to re-edit my video because I actually had like it where all this stuff is like clumped into one. Like all the good stuff is like clumped into one clump. Now I'm gonna have to like think of a way to like break it.
Yeah,
Like
dude, send it to me, bro. But yeah, I'll take a
yeah,
look at it.
I will. I will.
All right, sick.
But yeah, no, it's man, I spent like geez, I woke up at like 9:30 and I was editing for like till like it's like 10 or it's like 9 right here. So I've been editing, I don't even know, like
A
eight
hustle.
hours. Like I was like editing all day.
Yeah, that's how it
Um,
was for me. Like making a minute video took me like damn near an hour.
I know
I
it's
was like, holy
crazy.
shit.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy.
I think it picks up too. Like as you get used to it, as you like get more in tune with your editor too. Because I had a
Yeah,
lot of hiccups just like using software. It's like so
yeah,
powerful. I don't realize like Adobe Premiere is crazy. The things you can do on it.
it's insane. Yeah, it definitely gets smoother, but it's like every time like you like some things get smoother, but you have to like you're getting better every time you make a new video. So there's always like new things to learn. So it's like the old things take less time, but now the new things like and it's just never really. But I guess that's kind of like that's also why I try to like release a video once a week. Because like
Yeah,
once you
yeah.
finish a video, you'll just learn more and you'll just keep getting better every single video. And if you just keep getting better like every single video, like and you make a videos pretty constantly, then like you're just gonna get like really good.
Yeah,
Like
for
because
sure, for sure.
you learn new things like every single video when you try something new or like take a new angle out of video. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
still that's like back to your point, like how to like best way to learn about a startup is to do it. I think it's like
oh
the same
yeah,
thing here.
true.
Like if you're not constantly posting stuff and you're just trying to like learn about it. I don't think it's like of course you're not gonna do as well as the guy who's like out there like putting his foot in the door.
Facts. Yeah, I guess a lot of life is like that. Like even in lifting, I guess like we were talking like I like like just watching YouTube videos of lifting or reading articles, you'll never really understand it until like you actually do it.
I've been trying to get that way with people. It's like a weird viewpoint. But just like try and like talk to people, and like kind of like put your
Yeah.
foot in the door and just like get out there and like meet people and like learn about them and stuff, right? I think
Yeah.
it's like this weird thing where it's like being good at that's super important, helps you out in a ton of ways, right? It's
Yeah.
also just like really hard to go out there and just like meet somebody new.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to do it.
Yeah.
That's
No,
like a
it
weird
is
thing
like
for me.
social skills are hard.
Yeah, bro. I hear I'm introvert as hell. And I like slowly realize that like everybody is low key.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean it's super like social skills are probably like the most important thing, honestly. Like I don't know, like it's just
That's
so
what my dad
important.
always said. He made me read How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
eighth
that
grade.
book, yeah, yeah.
It's like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah. And that book, have you read Think and Grow Rich?
Yeah. Or yeah, pretty much.
That book, Think and Grow Rich. There's like another one, but I forget what book. But like that book and Think and Grow Rich are like the two like there's you just gotta read them.
A lot of stuff on there. Yeah. Dude, funny thing, this is a weird, cool story. So I'm actually like a walk on the track team, right?
Yeah.
So I got into Berkeley, and I wanted to like, I guess, I wanted to like play sport, right? I was like, oh, like I've been pole vaulting in high school, and I was like pretty close, like kind of like, oh, maybe I can make this team. I was like, I'm pretty athletic, right? I was like, okay, I'm pretty tall, I'm pretty athletic, I'm like kind of built for pole vaulting. Like, let's just give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
like fuck it. Um, and I like I like scripted what I was gonna say to this coach. I gave him an email, didn't respond, right? And I like practice. I like remembered his whole name, how to pronounce it correctly, blah blah, blah, right? And just like showed up at practice. Was like, hey, my name's Luke Willam. Nice to meet you. Blah blah blah. Like, I was really looking at like joining this team. First thing he asked, he's like, "Did you email me?" I'm like, "Yep, sent you an email already. Just really looking forward." He like, he's like, "Okay, I'll get back to you." Right? He like totally didn't get back to me. Right?
Yeah.
Showed up next week, same time with practice. Like, hey, like I'm just here again. Blah blah. Blah, right? Just kind of like put my foot in the door. Uh, he finally replies with like the requirement times, right?
Yeah.
Which like I didn't meet. So like, oh, like shoot, like shit, like I'm so screwed, right? And then I just
Yeah.
like sent him back an email like, hey, but I've like only been vaulting for this long, like just give me a shot, like trust me, like blah blah, blah, right? Doesn't respond, of course, right? Show up to practice again. He kind of like brushed me off, right? I showed up to practice like two more times, and then he's finally like, okay, I'll call your coach and I'll meet with you, like fine, right? He like he like calls my coach. My coach like from home was like, oh, this kid's made like just like bullshits, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he meets with me and he's like, okay, all right, here's the deal. I'll give you like 1 week, right? And you can be on the team for 1 week, like, uh, and we'll see how it goes from there. Like, I'll see. And I like get there, like, slowest kid easily, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just like busted my ass, and then like it wasn't as good as anybody, right? But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Coach was like, all right, you know what? Fine, like, we'll have till the rest of the year. We'll like see how it goes, you know. And like now I'm just like on the team. It's just like crazy story where it's just like, oh, just like keep putting yourself out there and like it like it works out for you. So I just like I've been really trying to like, I don't know, do that.
Facts. No, that damn. Yeah. It is super important to put yourself out there. Damn, that's crazy, bro. Congrats.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I like it. I called my dad afterwards. I was like, I was so excited. My sister.
It's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I had like the similar story like in high school for swimming because like I needed to swim like because I was like in middle school I was like obese like I was like so fat I was like dude I'm like so fat I'm like I can't be fat like I have to do something so I was like all right like I'll swim. And I knew how to swim and then I sent the coach like an email. I went to like a meeting and then he gave me the coach's email so I sent the coach an email and he emailed me back but I didn't check because it was like my school email and I didn't check it. I checked it one afternoon. He was like, oh, the meeting's at like 6 p.m. and on this date. And I was like, oh, okay. I looked on my laptop. It was that date, and it was 8 p.m. I was like, oh shit, I missed the mandatory meeting. No, I'm not gonna swim. I told my mom, and she was like, just go anyway. Like, I'll drive you. Like, just go anyway. So I show up. It's like the meeting's like pretty much almost over. I'm show up. I'm like, hi, is this the mandatory meeting? And everyone just starts laughing. Everyone's just like laughing because this is like, some random kid who just shows up at like the end of the meeting. He's like, is this the mandatory meeting? And everyone's just like laughing. The coach is like super confused. And like and everyone was like super like in shape and like been swimming since like middle school. I was like some random like fat Indian kid. But like the end of the meeting, I was like, is this the mandatory meeting? Did I miss it? But I just like kept going to practice. And I was like still the slowest, but I mean eventually I kind of just got the hang of it. And but yeah, it was like kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's like definitely like like I don't know. That's always been like my mindset. It's just like, hey, if I like keep putting my foot through the door, like I'll get
Yeah,
somewhere, you know.
exactly. It's like it's so hard, like, cause you want to like make friends, but it's like it's such a random thing. Like you might just like you might try like so hard to like meet people and make friends, and you might like not connect with anyone, and you might just like randomly meet someone and like you know what I mean, just be like super cool friends. Like, it's like unlike
Yeah,
anything else. It's just so random. Like it's not
it's kind of a random
like
thing.
yeah, it's like it's just a numbers game, but it's just like I don't know. Like I've made like one of my best friends right now. I met him like he was just my lab partner like sophomore year of high school,
Yeah, yeah,
and I wasn't even trying to be like I was trying to be my other friend's partner because everyone just knew like he was just like really like he was just like really good at that subject, but he didn't want to be. He like had already got a partner, and my other friend I didn't like know him at the time. He said, "Do you want to be partners?" I was like, I mean, okay, I guess. And then now we're like we're like best friends. But it's just like it was so random. Like I wasn't, you know what I mean?
No, that's awesome. Yeah,
But yeah,
it's weird how like yeah, you meet people in like the most random places.
I know it's like when you least expect it.
Fate.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
No, I think it's funny though, the like numbers game thing. It's like kind of true, right? It's like if you keep putting your like foot in the door and stuff, like you're gonna meet these cool people. You're gonna
Yeah.
like get to have all these cool opportunities. But like, have you seen like have you seen those like accounts that like they're like these Tinder coaches? Like the biggest thing is just always like like, all right, the plan is to get all the matches. It's entirely numbers game. And then they just go on about how like the whole deal is like, all right, ask them to hang out. If they don't want to, don't worry, it's a numbers game. I just thought that was like a weird way to go about it. But I think it also like kind of had some truth where it's like, hey, like don't like worry. Like yeah, not everybody's gonna like you, you know? It's like yeah, if you keep putting your foot in the door, like somebody will, somebody will be really cool and you'll really like them, get to do a bunch of cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Making friends is yeah, it's weird. But yeah, numbers game for sure.
Yeah, and it definitely helped me out a lot. Like it helped me like for when I was doing my startup, I had to like talk to a bunch of people about
Yeah,
certain things, right? I was like, I don't know how to do this, right? And the first thing
yeah,
I do is like look it up and stuff, right? And like at first I really didn't want to reach out to
yeah,
anybody, right? But as I got better like about it, I was just like reaching out to anybody I could. And like
yeah,
I got to meet like it was really cool. Like, I got to like literally meet like super rich people and super successful and super it's like yeah, these people who just have like way too much like I got to meet an angel investor who like had his own biotech startup and was like
yeah.
unbelievably rich, right? And it's like just by like reaching out and stuff, like you can pick these guys' brains, you can learn more about like what you're doing, and they're just like so willing to help. Like, it's
Yeah,
funny, like everybody wants to like um kind of just like share what they know, like they kind of like they feel good teaching. I don't know.
yeah,
I kind of noticed that where it's like somebody people feel good when they feel like they're more knowledgeable or like have the upper hand of like a certain topic.
yeah. Like helping people. It's like getting in the gym actually too. Like when I like people in the gym are like the nicest people you'll ever meet because like they're like so willing to help. Like they'll like spot you, they'll like help you with your form, like whatever. Like people in the gym too. Like they're super helpful, super like it's crazy. Yeah, like places where people are like really have to build things from scratch and play like
Mhm.
you have to be that type of person to succeed in that environment. So when you go to that like environment, you just meet those types of people. Like people in real life, like in general, aren't like that always. But like in the startup world or in the gym, like you'll just meet those types of people because those are the types of people who go to those places. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I
it's
think the
the
biggest thing
type
too with the gym is like if you ask them for help, they're immediately on it. It's like,
for
yeah, a
sure.
lot of
Yeah,
these guys like they're not gonna help you if they just see you, right? They're just like
yeah,
making that like little contact, like, hey, can you help me out with this? Like they're totally
yeah,
down.
yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's like it's because like I wouldn't even like want to like talk to someone or something, but I like saw like a bench would be taken or a bench would like free up and be like, oh, do you want to work in? And like I make a friend like that, or it'd be like I ask someone to spot me, and they're like so nice and like encouraging me like get or I don't know. It's just like um oh real quick, it's kind of random, but my friend who this is totally random, but I pitched an idea at my business at like my startup club, and then someone DM'd me on Slack based on that idea. And then we met up and we talked for like an hour. And then I found out he actually talked to like, have you heard of Shutterstock?
No, I haven't. Is that
It's
like stock images?
yeah.
Okay.
So the person that founded that, he's like a super rich billionaire
Yeah.
guy. He hit my friend up, who I talked to for like an hour, like on LinkedIn, and they actually talked for like an hour or something. Like he needed my friend's help for like nuclear energy, and my friend had worked in a nuclear energy startup, so he was friends with the founder of Shutterstock. I was like,
That's crazy.
and I was just he was just telling me, he was like, oh yeah, like it's like Shutterstock billionaire guy. I was like talking to him like the other day, like and I was like helping him out, and I was like, what? Like that's crazy, bro. Like, and he was helping him. It's not like the billionaire, like he was helping the founder of Shutterstock. Like he was helping him out.
So
Like
I
that
think
is,
that's one of the coolest things too about coming to college. Like I just know people who are like doing crazy things. Like I know the guy who's probably gonna win the Olympics for discus in like 2024. Like
Jesus.
I just like know him personally. You know,
It's crazy.
it's like these like super crazy events, and then like I know this like guy who like is like TikTok famous and like doing really well and has like two startups. And it's just like like I just like run into these people and like are friends with them. And it's like
Yeah,
one of those things there's like at my hometown or whatever, I'll never like there's nobody there that ever be in these positions. But because like, I'm at Berkeley or I'm at these like institutions where like they all come together, to meet these
yeah,
like super interesting people.
yeah. It's crazy. I met one of my friends. He like told me that um one of his friends like he's like 20 and he had like $7 million. Some crazy kid. He made like 7 million. And another one of his friends had like $2 million or something. And he was just telling me this. He was like, "Oh yeah, like man," I was like, "How do you like meet all these people? Like, bro, like what? Like, how do you have all these crazy friends?" I was like, and he was like, "Oh man, like I don't know, man. Like, I just try to make friends with like smart people. Like, I don't know." It was just crazy. Like, you can just I don't even know. One thing I was thinking about though is like I stressed a lot before about like making friends and stuff like that. But one thing that occurred to me today is like all the friends that I've made so far, like not from like all the new friends in college that I've made so far, that I feel like that I've really like connected with, I made them like while I was on like the path to like I guess improving myself, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like even the people that I met, like we talked about like the gym and then we like became friends through that. Or we talked about something else that we were working on and we connected through that. Or we met them I met them through that. So it's just like I kind of just or even you, like I met you
Yeah,
like that, right? So
yeah,
it's just like I feel like just chasing down the path. So I like it sounds corny, but just chasing down the path to greatness. And then you'll just meet the people that you were meant to meet through that path. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. No, definitely.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like it kind of speaks to that thing. It's like you are like your five closest friends. Have you ever heard that?
I think about that every day.
Yeah, so like I think that's like a big part too. It's just like oh, if I'm surrounding myself with like all these people, yeah, of course you're gonna do well, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's always been like, all right, let's keep being in that environment. Let's keep
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I like it's just like whenever I like make friends with someone or like I become friends with someone, I always think like would I want to be like this? Because you're gonna be like that person. Like whether you like it or not, like you're gonna
Mhm.
end up becoming like that person. And they're gonna rub off on you. So it's like, would I want this person? Would I want to be like this person? If the answer is no, then don't hang out with them. Like
Fair
I've
enough.
I've I've been with like in high school because in high school you're limited in like
Hmm.
how many friends you have. Like I had friends where I was thinking like, would I really want to be like this person? Would I want to be like them? Like is this type of person I want to hang around? And the answer was no. And then I stopped hanging around some people. And then at OSU I was always thinking like, oh like would I want to be like this person? And if like I would like I would like actively like try to pursue like being friends with that person because they were just so like you know what I mean? Like I really just wanted to like be friends with them because they were so cool. I was like, this person's like so cool. Like I should like I really wanted to be friends with this person.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But
All right. Do you have any more
yeah.
questions? I'm like scraping the
No,
barrel.
yeah, I don't really have any more to be honest.
Sounds good. Dude, it was nice
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yeah, man. It's nice talking to you too, bro.
Send me your video. Oh, I got on the dark
Wait,
screen.
what? Oh, I don't know why I did that.
But yeah, send me like your content and stuff too. Like I definitely want to take a look. Like I'm super into editing and stuff.
Yeah, all did you screen record this too, right? But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just oh yeah, but I'll save this and then I'll send it over too. I'll try to edit it in YouTube where it's like it looks like super like I'll like I don't know how to describe it, but I'll like try to edit it so like looks kind of cool too, or like it like looks
Okay.
like I don't know
And I
like
videoed
worthy
myself and took audio of myself on my phone, which will probably be higher quality. Especially my video is terrible on PCs.
facts.
So I can send that over real quick too.
All right, bet. Thank you.
All right, dope, dude. Yeah, let's keep working together, man.
Okay, cool.
Make this
All
like
right,
a
bro.
weekly thing too if you want.
Yeah, dude. I don't know why it keeps doing that. I didn't click my stop video. I wasn't clicking that. I don't know why it's doing that for me.
That's funny.
Yeah, but here, let me. All right, I just stopped screen recording.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we can just do like a weekly thing where we like catch up